Hello, and welcome to this recorded performance of Pygmalion presented by the University of Victoria's Drama and Musical Theatre Club. We acknowledge with respect the Lekwungen peoples, on whose traditional territory the university stands, and the Songhees, Esquimalt, and Wasanich peoples, whose historical relationships with the land continue to this day. Pygmalion was written by George Bernard Shaw, and our version adapted by Sidney Hunt. The show is best enjoyed with earbuds or headphones. While the show is available to you at no cost, if you should feel inclined to donate to the Drama and Musical Theatre Club, you will find a link to the Buy Me a Coffee page in the description. Now please, enjoy the show.
Covent Garden at 11:15 p.m. Torrents of heavy summer rain, cab whistles blowing frantically in all directions, pedestrians running for cover into the market under the shelter of St. Paul's Church. Among them, a lady and her daughter in evening dress. They are all peering out gloomily at the rain. One man, with his back turned to the rest, seems wholly preoccupied with a notebook in which he is writing busily. Others pay him no mind. The church clock strikes the first quarter. The lady's daughter is the first to speak.
Mother, I'm getting quite chilled to the bone. What can Freddie be doing all this time? He's been gone 20 minutes.
Oh, not so long, but he ought to have gotten us a cab by this.
You won't get no cab, miss. Not till 11:30, when they come back after dropping their theatre fares.
But we can't stand here till 11:30. Why, it's far too wet.
It ain't my fault, missus.
If Freddie had a bit of gumption, he would have got one at the theatre door.
Really, Clara? What could he have done? The poor boy is as shy as a mouse.
Well, other people got cabs. Why couldn't he?
Freddie rushes in out of the rain and comes between them, closing a dripping umbrella. He's a young man of 20, in evening dress, very wet around the ankles.
Well, haven't you got a cab?
There's not one to be had for love or money.
Oh, Freddie, there must be one. You can't have tried.
Do you expect us to go and get one ourselves?
I tell you, they're all busy. The rain was so sudden, nobody was prepared, and everybody had to take a cab. I've been past all the shops and nearly down to the East Side Cafe, and they're all engaged. Every cab was engaged, I tell you.
Certainly not every cab.
Yes, every cab.
Did you try the square?
There's not one to be had at the square.
What did you try?
You really are very helpless, Freddie. Go again, and don't come back until you've found a cab.
I shall simply get soaked for nothing.
And what about us? Are we to stay here all night in the storm with next to nothing on?
Very well, I'll go.
Freddie opens his umbrella and dashes off, but comes into collision with a flower girl, who is hurrying in for shelter. Freddie knocks her basket out of her hands.
Marvin, look where you're going there.
Sorry.
God, damn smellers for you. 2 bunches of violets thrown into the mud.
I asked the Lord for a son, and he delivered a clumsy clown.
The flower girl sits. She is not an attractive person. She is 18, perhaps 20, hardly older. Her hair needs washing rather badly. Its mousy color can hardly be natural. She wears a shoddy black coat that reaches nearly to her knees. Her boots are much the worse for wear. She is no doubt as clean as she can afford to be, but compared to the ladies around her, she is very dirty. Her features are no worse than theirs, but their condition leaves something to be desired. Oh, and she needs the services of a dentist.
He's your son, is he? Well, if you'd have done your duty by him as a mother should, he'd know better than to spoil a poor girl's flowers and run away without paying. Will you pay me for them?
Do nothing of the sort, Mother. The idea.
Please, allow me. Clara, have you any pennies?
No, I've nothing smaller than 6p.
I can give you change for a tenner, kind lady.
The mother speaks directly to her daughter.
Give it to me. Now here, these are for your flowers.
May
Thank you.
I give you the change? These things are only a penny a bunch.
Do hold your tongue, Clara. You can keep the change.
Oh, thank you kindly, lady.
6p thrown away. Really, Mama, you might have spared Freddie that.
A gentleman of the military type rushes into shelter and closes a dripping umbrella. He is in the same plight as Freddie, very wet about the ankles. He's in an evening dress with a light overcoat.
Phew.
Oh, sir, is there any sign of it stopping?
I'm afraid not. It started worse than ever about 2 minutes ago.
Oh, dear.
If it's worse, it's a sign it's nearly over. So cheer up, Captain, and buy flour for poor girl.
I'm sorry. I haven't any change. Wait. Here's 3 halfpence, if that's any use to you.
Thank you, sir.
You be careful. Give him a flower for it. There's a bloke behind here, taking down every blessed word you're saying.
Wait now, I ain't done nothing wrong by speaking to gentlemen. I have a right to sell flowers if I keep off the curve. I'm a respectable girl, I am, so help me. I never spoke anything to him except asking to buy a flower off me. I never did anything. Oh.
Slow down, girl. He ain't hurting you yet.
It's a good fussing. Steady on. Easy, easy. Who's taking down what now?
That fellow, that queer man with the book.
Strangest looking copper I've ever seen. Maybe he's just strange?
There. What's going on? What's all the fuss?
See, just that. It's all right. He's a gentleman. Look at his boots. She thought you was a copper, sir.
If he was a copper, he'd done told us by now, I reckon.
I mean, I take my Bible oath. I never said a word.
Oh, shut up. Do I look like a policeman?
Then what did you take my words down for? Show me what you wrote about me. What's that? Oh, that ain't proper writing. I can't read that.
I can. Cheer up, Captain, and have ye a far for a poor gal.
Really, sir, if you are a detective, you need not begin protecting me against molestation by young women until I ask you. Anybody could see that the girl meant no harm.
No, you've got it wrong. He ain't a copper. He's a bloomin' busybody. That's what he is. I tell ya, look at his boots.
You girl, how did you come to live so far up east? You were born in Listen Grove.
Oh, what harm is there me leaving Listen Grove? It wasn't fit for a pig to live in, and I had to pay 4 and 6 a week.
Live where you like, but stop that noise.
Come. He can't touch you. You have a right to live where you please.
He knows where I'm from still. Ain't no call to meddle with me, he ain't.
Of course it ain't. Don't you stand it from him. See here, Mr. Note-taker. What call have you to know about people what never offered to meddle with you? Where's your warrant?
Yes, where's your warrant?
Let him say what he likes. I don't want to have no truck with him. He's no gentleman, he ain't, to interfere with a poor girl.
What on earth is Freddie doing? I shall get pneumonia if I stay in this drought any longer.
Ah, you're from Earl's Court.
Will you please keep your impertinent remarks to yourself?
Did I say that out loud? I didn't mean to. I beg your pardon. Your mother's Epsom, unmistakably.
Oh, very curious. I was brought up near Epsom.
Haha, right again I am. Excuse me, I take it the pair of you want a cab, do you?
Don't dare speak to me.
Oh, please, Clara. We should be so grateful to you, sir, if you found us a cab.
The note-taker steps towards the street and pulls out a whistle. A cab is hailed, and the mother and daughter step in.
Oh, thank you so kindly. Clara!
Yes, thank you. Can we please get on with it, Mother?
The mother and daughter exit in the cab.
He's no right to take away my character. My character's the same to me as any lady's.
Right you are.
True gentlemen don't go on messing with young girls like yourself, that's for sure.
I don't know whether you noticed it, but the rain stopped about 2 minutes ago. Maybe you all have something better to do with your evenings?
So it has. Why didn't you say so before? And us losing our time listening to your silliness.
Oh, it seems. So long.
The bystanders depart, and the military gen steps forward once again.
How'd you do it, if I may ask?
Simply phonetics, the science of speech. That's my profession, as is my hobby. I can spot an Irishman or a Yorkshireman simply by his brogue. I can place any man in 6 miles and sometimes 2 streets.
But is there a living in that?
Oh yes, quite a fat one. This is an age of upstarts. Men begin wanting to sound proper to advance themselves in society, in the workforce. Now, I can teach them that...
Yes, but right, what's that got to do with poor Gil?
Woman, cease this detestable boo-hooing instantly, or else seek the shelter of some other place.
I've a right to be here if I like. God, same as you.
A woman who utters such depressing and disgusting sounds has no right to be anywhere, no right to live. Remember that you are a human being with a soul and the divine gift of articulate speech, that your native language is the language of Shakespeare and Milton and the Bible. And don't just sit there croning like a bilious pigeon.
Ow!
Heavens, what a sound! Ow, 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 ow. You see this creature with her curbstone English, the English that'll keep her in the gutter to the end of her days? Well, sir, in 3 months, I could pass that girl off as a duchess at an ambassador's garden party. I could even get her a place as a lady in a shop or as a maid's assistant, both of which require better English. That's the sort of thing I do for commercial millionaires.
Fascinating. I am myself a student of Indian dialects and...
Do you know Colonel Pickering, the author of the spoken Sanskrit?
I am Colonel Pickering. Who are you?
Henry Higgins, author of Higgins' Universal Alphabet.
I came from India to meet you.
I was going to India to meet you.
Where do you live?
27A Wimpole Street. Come and see me tomorrow.
I'm at the Carlton up the street. Come with me now and let's have a jaw over some supper.
Right you are.
All that, and now you two leave. Why don't you buy a flower for poor girl, kind gentleman? I'm short for my lodging.
I really haven't any change. I'm sorry.
Liar, I've been watching you. Mustn't you have some cash in that basket of yours?
You ought to be stuffed with nails, you ought. Tell you what, take the whole blooming basket for 6pence.
The church clock strikes the 2nd quarter. Higgins looks up towards the clearing sky and sighs.
Ah, yes. A reminder.
He empties his pockets of change and such and tosses it all into the girl's basket before he and Pickering depart. The flower girl shuffles through the muddied coins.
Oh, don't mind if I do.
Freddie, soaked from the rain, re-enters in a taxicab. At last.
Go on at last. Hello? Mom? Clara? Where are the 2 ladies who are standing here?
They have earlier.
And left me with a cup in my hands. Damnation.
Well, never you mind, young man. I'm going home in a taxi. 8pence no object to me no more, Charlie. Let's see how fast you can make her off it.
She gets in and pulls the door with a slam as the taxicab starts.
Well, I'll be dashed.
This concludes Act 1. Next day at 11 a.m., Higgins' laboratory in Wimpole Street. In a corner stands a flat writing table, on which are a phonograph, a row of tiny organ pipes with a bellows, several tuning forks of different sizes, a life-size image of half a human head, showing in section the vocal organs, and a box containing a supply of wax cylinders for the phonograph. His study contains a fireplace, with a comfortable leather-covered easy chair to the side. There is a clock on the mantelpiece. On the other side of the room is a cabinet of shallow drawers. On it is a telephone and the telephone directory. The corner beyond, and most of the side wall, is occupied by a grand piano, with the keyboard at the end furthest from the door, and a bench for the player extending the full length of the keyboard. On the piano is a dessert dish heaped with fruit and sweets, mostly chocolates. As we enter the scene, Pickering is seated at the table, putting down some cards and a tuning fork which he has been using. Higgins is standing up near him, closing 2 or 3 file drawers which are hanging out. Higgins is an appetizing sort of man of 40 or thereabouts, dressed in a professional-looking coat with white linen collar and black silk tie. He is of the energetic, scientific type, heartily and careless about himself and other people, including their feelings. He is in fact, but for his years and size, rather like a very large baby, taking notice, eagerly and loudly, and requiring almost as much watching to keep him out of unintended mischief.
Well, I think that's the whole show. Would you like to go over any of it again?
No, thank you. Not now. I'm quite done up for this morning.
Tired of listening to sounds?
Yes, it's a fearful strain. I rather fancied myself because I can pronounce 24 distinct vowel sounds, but your 130 beat me. I can't hear a bit of difference between most of them.
Oh, that comes with practice. You'll hear no difference at first, but you keep on listening, and presently you'll find they're all as different as A from B.
Mrs. Pierce has entered. She is Higgins's housekeeper, a woman of great order and grace for someone in her position. One can only assume this grace comes from her delicate age.
What's the matter?
A young woman wants to see you, sir.
A young woman? What does she want?
Well, sir, she says you'll be glad to see her when you know what she's come about. She's quite a common girl, sir. Very common indeed. I should have sent her away, only I thought perhaps you wanted her to talk into your machines. You'll excuse me, I'm sure, sir.
Oh, that's all right, Miss Pierce. Has she an interesting accent?
Oh, something dreadful, sir, really.
Let's have her up. Show her up, Miss Pierce.
Very well, sir, it's for you to say.
She goes downstairs.
This is rather a bit of luck. I'll show you how I make records. We'll set her talking, and then we'll get her on the phonograph so that you can turn her on and off as often as you'd like, with the written transcript before you.
Mrs. Pierce has returned, trailing the flower girl. The girl is dressed in a very similar outfit to last night. It appears she may have slept in it. Her head is anointed with a hat with 3 ostrich feathers, orange, sky blue, and red. As 2 women are present, Pickering has straightened himself. But as to Higgins, the only distinction he makes between men and women is that when he is neither bullying nor exclaiming to the heavens against some featherweight cross, he coaxes women as a child coaxes its nurse when it wants to get anything out of her.
This is the young woman, sir.
Why, this is the girl I jotted down last night. She's of no use. I've got all the records. Be off with you. I don't want you.
Don't you be so saucy. You ain't heard what I come for yet. Did you tell him I'd come in a taxi?
Nonsense, girl. What do you think a gentleman like Mr. Higgins cares what you came in?
Oh, we are proud, ain't we? He ain't above giving lessons, though, not him. I heard him say so. If money's not good enough, I can go elsewhere.
Good enough for what?
I've come to have lessons, I am, and I pay for 'em too, make no mistake.
What is it you want, my girl?
I want to be a lady in a flower shop instead of selling at the corner. But they won't take me unless I can talk more genteel. He said he could teach me. Well, here I am to pay him. Not asking any favour or nothing. I'm ready to pay.
How much?
Now you're talking. I thought you'd come off it when you saw a chance of getting back a bit of what you chucked at me last night.
Sit down.
Now, if you're going to make a compliment of it.
Sit down, girl. Do as you're told.
Ow, what?
Won't you sit down?
Don't mind if I do.
What's your name?
Eliza Doolittle.
Eliza, Elizabeth, Betsy, and Bess.
Don't be so silly.
You mustn't speak to the gentleman like that.
Well, why won't he speak sensibly to me? One would think you was my mother.
If I decide to teach you, I'll be worse than 2 mothers to you. Here.
He offers her his silk handkerchief.
What's this for?
To wipe your eyes, to wipe any part of your face that feels moist. Remember that that is your handkerchief, and that is your sleeve. Don't mistake the one for the other if you wish to become a lady in a shop.
It's no use talking to her like that, Mr. Higgins. She doesn't understand you.
Higgins, I'm interested. What about the ambassador's garden party? I'll say you're the greatest teacher alive if you make that good. I'll bet you all the expenses of the experiment you can't do it, and I'll pay for the lessons.
Oh, you are real good. Thank you, Captain.
Now that's almost irresistible. She's so deliciously low, so horribly dirty. Miss Higgins, take off all her clothes and burn them. Ring up the shops for new ones. Wrap her up in brown paper till they come.
You're no gentleman, you're not, to talk such things. I'm a good girl, I am. I know what the like of you are, I do.
No, no, you've got to learn to behave like a duchess. Take her away, Miss Pierce. If she gives you any trouble, wallop her.
No, I'll call the police, I will.
But I've no place to put her.
Put her in the dustbin.
Ow!
Oh, come. Higgins, be reasonable.
You must be reasonable, Mr. Higgins. You really must. You can't walk all over everybody like this.
Is that so? I walk over everybody. Tell me, what's the matter?
Well, the matter is, sir, you can't take a girl up like this as if you were picking up a pebble on the beach.
Why not?
Why not? But you don't know anything about her. What about her parents? She may be married.
No, ma'am, he'd marry me.
By George, Eliza, the streets will be strewn with the bodies of men shooting themselves before I've done with you.
Stop, Mr. Higgins. I won't allow it. It's you that are wicked. Go home to your parents, girl, and tell them to take better care of you.
I ain't got no parents. They told me I was big enough to live my own living and turn me out.
Very well, then. What on earth was all the fuss about? The girl doesn't belong to anybody. Is of no use to anybody but me.
Does it occur to you, Higgins, that the girl has some feelings?
Oh, no, I don't think so. Not any feelings that we need to be bothered by.
I've got my feelings, same as anyone else.
Excuse me, Higgins, but Mrs. Pierce is quite right. If this girl is to put herself in your hands for 6 months for an experiment in teaching, she must understand thoroughly what she is doing.
How can she? She is incapable of understanding anything. Besides, do any of us understand what we're doing?
Very clever, Higgins, but not sound sense. Miss Doolittle.
Ow!
There! That's all you get out of Eliza! Ow! Ow! No use explaining. As a military man, you ought to know that. Give her her orders. That's what she wants. Eliza, you are to live here for the next 6 months, learning to speak beautifully, like a lady in a florist shop. If you're good and do whatever you're told, you shall sleep in a proper bedroom, have lots to eat, and money to buy chocolate and take rides in taxis. At the end of 6 months, you shall go to Buckingham Palace in a carriage, beautifully dressed. If the king finds out you're not a lady, you'll be taken by the police to the Tower of London, where your head will be cut off as a warning to other presumptuous flower girls. If you are not found out, you shall have a present of 7 and 6 pence to start life with as a lady in a shop. If you refuse this offer, you shall be a most ungrateful and wicked girl, and the angels will weep for you. Are you satisfied, Pickering? Can I put it more plainly and fairly, Miss Pierce?
I think you'd better let me speak to the girl properly in private. I don't know that I can properly take care of her. Of course, I know you don't mean her any harm, but you haven't stopped to think or care what may happen to others, or even to you. Come with me, Eliza.
That's all right. Thank you, Miss Pierce. Bundle her off to the bathroom.
You're a great bully, you are. I won't stay if I don't like. I never asked to go to Buckingham Palace, I didn't. I was never in trouble with the police. No law, not me. I'm a good girl, I am.
Don't answer back, girl. You don't understand the gentleman. Come with me.
Mrs. Pierce shuffles her out and shuts the door. Eliza's plaints are no longer audible. The men are left alone once more.
Excuse the straight question, Higgins. Are you a man of good character where women are concerned?
Have you ever met a man of good character where women are concerned?
Yes, very frequently. Come, Higgins, you know what I mean. If I'm to be in this business, I shall feel responsible for that girl. I hope it's understood that no advantage is to be taken of her position.
What? That thing? Absolutely not, I assure you. You see, she'll be a pupil. I've taught scores of American millionairesses how to speak English. The best-looking women in the world. I'm seasoned. They might as well be blocks of wood.
Mrs. Pierce opens the door. She has Eliza's hat in her hand.
Well, Miss Pierce, is it all right?
I just wish to trouble you with a word, if I may, Mr. Higgins.
Certainly, come in. Don't burn that, Miss Pierce. I'll keep it as a curiosity.
Handle it carefully, sir, please. I had to promise her not to burn it, but I had better put it in the oven for a while.
Oh, thank you. Well, what have you to say to me?
Am I in the way?
Not at all, sir. Mr. Higgins, will you please be very particular what you say before the girl?
Of course. I'm always particular about what I say. Why do you say this to me?
No, sir, you're not at all particular when you've mislaid anything or when you get a little impatient. Now, it doesn't matter before me, I'm used to it, but you really must not swear before the girl.
What? I never swear. I detest the habit. What the devil do you mean?
That's what I mean, sir. You swear a great deal too much. I don't mind your damning and blasting and what the devil and where the devil and who the devil and...
Really, Miss Pierce, this language from your lips?
But there is a certain word I must ask you not to use. The girl has just used it herself because the bath was too hot. It begins with the same letter as bath. She knows no better. She learnt it at her mother's knee, but she must not hear it from your lips.
I cannot charge myself with having ever uttered it, Miss Pierce. Except perhaps in a moment of extreme and justifiable excitement.
Only this morning, sir, you applied it to your boots, to the butter, and to the brown bread.
Oh, that mere alliteration, Miss Pierce. Natural to a poet.
Well, sir, whatever you choose to call it, I beg you not to let the girl hear you repeat it.
Oh, very well, very well. Is that all?
No, sir. We shall have to be very particular with this girl as to personal cleanliness.
Certainly. Quite right. Most important.
I mean not to be slobby about her dress or untidy in leaving things about.
Just so.
Might I ask you, sir, not to come down to breakfast in your dressing gown, or at any rate not to use it as a napkin to the extent that you do, sir, and if you would be so good as to not eat everything off the same plate, and to remember to wash up after each meal, it would be a better example for the girl.
I may do these things sometimes in the absence of mind, but surely I don't do them habitually. By the way, my dressing gown smells most damnably of roses.
No doubt it does, Mr. Higgins, but if you will wipe your fingers...
Oh, very well. I'll wipe them in my hair in future.
No, sir. Please, I hope you're not offended, Mr. Higgins.
Not at all. Not at all. You're quite right, Miss Pierce. I shall be particularly careful before the girl. Is that all?
Thank you, sir. Now, if you please, sir, the trouble's beginning already. There's a woman downstairs.
Who?
Anita Doolittle, a businesswoman.
Well, I hardly believe a Doolittle to be in business.
No, sir. A businesswoman.
I heard you.
She runs a brothel, sir. She wants to see you. She says you have her daughter here.
Oh. Well. Quite right. Send her up.
Oh, very well, sir.
I'm afraid we may have some trouble with her.
Oh, no, I think not. If there's any trouble, she shall have it with me, not I with her.
Doolittle, sir.
Mrs. Pierce retires once more. Anita Doolittle is an elderly but vigorous woman, clad in the costume of her profession. She has well-marked and rather interesting features and seems equally free from fear and conscience. She has a remarkably expressive voice, the result of a habit of giving vent to her feelings without reserve.
Professor Higgins?
Here. Good morning. Sit down.
Morning, Governor. I come about a very serious matter, Governor.
What do you want, Doolittle?
I want my daughter. That's what I want, see?
Of course you do. You're her mother, aren't you? I'm glad to see you have some spark of familial feeling left. She's upstairs. Take her away at once.
What?
Take her away. Do you suppose I'm going to keep your daughter from you?
Now look here, Governor, is this reasonable? Is it fair to take advantage of a lady like this? The girl belongs to me and you got her, so where do I come in?
Your daughter had the audacity to come to my house and ask me to teach her how to speak properly so that she could get a place in a flower shop. This gentleman and my housekeeper have been here all the time. How dare you come here and attempt to blackmail me? You sent her here on purpose.
No, Governor, no.
You must have. How else could you have possibly known that she was here?
Oh, don't take me up like that, Governor.
The police shall take you up. This is a plot to extort money by threats. I shall telephone for the police.
Hold up. Have I asked you for a penny? I leave it to the gentleman here. Have I said a word about money?
Why, no, not yet.
What else did you come for? How did you know she was here?
Well, I'll tell you, Governor, if you'd only let me get a word in.
Tell us, how did you know the girl was here if you didn't send her?
Thank you. It was like this, Governor. The girl took a boy in the taxi to give her a jaunt. Well, she sent him in the taxi back to her place at the pub to get her luggage when they heard yous was willing for her to stay here. I met the boy at the pub.
Public house. Yes.
The poor man's club, Governor. Why shouldn't I?
Do let her tell her story, Higgins.
He told me what was up, and I ask you, what was my feelings and my duty as a mother? I says to the boy, what's she taking with you? I says.
How much luggage? What has she brought?
A musical instrument, Governor. Few pictures, trifle of jewellery, and a birdcage. That's it. He said that she didn't want no clothes. What was I to think from that, Governor? No clothes? As a parent, I ask you, what was I supposed to think?
So you come here to rescue her from worse than death, eh?
Just so, Governor, that's right. Now, you and me's business folk, ain't we?
Oh, are we? And pray tell, what is your business?
Oh, I'm in the business of satisfying a wide variety of men folks through my services. Well, no, I don't mean my services per se, but the services of them girls I be looking after.
The floor's yours, Miss Doolittle.
Thank you, Governor. Well, the truth is, I've taken a sort of fancy to you, Governor. If you want the girl, I'm open to an arrangement. Regarding in the light of a young woman, well, she's a fine, handsome girl, and you're the last man alive expect me to let her go for nothing. Well, what's a £5 note to you? And what's Eliza to me?
I think you ought to know, Doolittle, that Mr. Higgins' intentions are entirely honourable.
Oh, of course they are, Governor. If they wasn't, I'd ask for more money. 50, maybe.
Do you mean to say that you would sell your daughter for £50?
Oh, not in a general way.
Morals?
No, I can't afford them, Governor. Neither could you if you was as poor as me. Not that I mean any harm, but if Liza's going to have a bit out of this, why not me too?
I don't know what to do, Pickering. There can be no question that as a matter of morals, it is a positive crime to give this chap one bit, yet I feel a sort of rough justice in her absurd claim.
That's it, Governor. It's all I say, a mother's claim, as it were.
I know the feeling, but really it seems hardly right.
Don't say that, Governor. Don't look at it that way. What am I? Yeah, I'm one of the undeserving poor. That's what I am. Now, think about what that means. I'm up against middle-class morality all the time. If there's anything going and I put in a bid for it, it's always the same story. You're undeserving, so you can't have it. Poh. But my needs is as great as the next day is. What is middle-class morality? Just an excuse for never giving me anything? I'm playing straight with you, and I ain't pretending to be deserving. I'm undeserving, and I mean to go on being undeserving. I like it, and that's the truth. Will you take advantage of a mother's nature and do her out of the price of her own daughter, what she's brought up and fed and clothed, all by the sweat of her brow until she's grown big enough to be interesting to you two gentlemen? Is £5 unreasonable? I put it to you, and I leave it to you.
Pickering, if we were to take this lady in hand for 3 months, she could choose between a seat at the cabinet and a place in a court. We could change this woman the same as we could change her daughter.
What do you say to that, Doolittle?
Not me, Governor. Thank you kindly. I tell you, it's a dog's life, any way you look at it, but undeserving poverty, that's my line. That's what tickles my fancy.
I suppose We must give her a fiver.
She'll make a bad use of it, I'm afraid.
No, not me, Governor. So help me, I won't. Don't you be afraid of that. I won't save it and spare on it and live idle on it. No, there won't be a penny of it left by Monday. Just one good spree for myself and my gentleman. Giving satisfaction to you to think that it's not been thrown away. You couldn't spend it better.
This is irresistible. Let's give her 10.
No, Governor. My gentleman caller wouldn't have the heart to spend 10, and perhaps I shouldn't either. You give me what I ask you, Governor. £5, and not a penny more, not a penny less.
Why don't you marry that caller of yours? I rather draw the line at encouraging that sort of immorality.
You tell him so, Governor. I'm willing. It's me that suffers by it. I've no hold on him. I've got to be agreeable. I've got to stay in shape. I've got to buy tight clothes. I'm a slave to that man, Governor, just because he ain't yet my lawful husband. And he knows it too.
Fine. £5 it is.
Thank you kindly, Governor.
You sure you won't take 10?
Not now, no. Another time, Governor.
Here you are.
Thank you, Governor.
Mrs. Pierce enters with Eliza, this time clean in a simple blue dress. Pickering stands and bows in a proper way.
Blimey, it's Eliza!
What the? That's this.
By Jove.
Don't I look silly?
Silly? Why no, this is...
Now, Mr. Higgins, please don't say anything to make the girl conceited about herself.
Oh, quite right, Miss Pierce. Yes. You look damned silly.
Please, sir.
I mean extremely silly.
No, that's not right either.
I tell you, it's easy to clean up here. Hot and cold water on tap, just as much as you like. There is.
I'm glad you found the bathroom met with your approval. Well, have you any further advice to give her before you go, Doolittle? Your blessing, for instance.
No, Governor, I ain't one for such sentimental stuffs. Got some work to do. Afternoon, gentlemen. Afternoon, ma'am.
She exits.
I don't never want to see her again. I don't. She's a disgrace to me.
What is her trade, Eliza?
Talking money out of other people's pockets in her own. Them younger girls are the one doing all the work. Hang on, aren't you going to call me Miss Doolittle anymore?
I beg your pardon, Miss Doolittle. It was a slip of the tongue.
Oh, I don't mind, only it sounds so genteel.
I simply must tell my colleagues in America about that woman. Such remarkable views on morality in the world. Huh, could be the next great philosopher.
Oh, pooh-pooh, I don't care to speak of her again. Now Mrs. Pierce says you're going to give me some to wear at night, different to what I wear in the daytime.
Well, that certainly is enough from you, I should think. Now, Eliza, the new things have come for you to try on.
Ow!
The women exit together.
Pickering, we have taken on a stiff job.
Higgins, we have.
This concludes Act 2. It is Mrs. Higgins's at-home day. Nobody has yet arrived. Her drawing room, in a flat on Chelsea Embankment, has 3 windows looking on the river, and the ceiling is not so lofty as it would be in an older house of the same pretension. The windows are open, giving access to a balcony with flowers in pots. Mrs. Higgins was brought up in the old Aegeus, in where her room, which is very unlike her son's room in Wimpole Street, is not crowded with furniture and little tables and knickknacks. A few good oil paintings hang on the walls. Mrs. Higgins, now over 60 and long past taking the trouble to dress out of the fashion, sits writing at an elegantly simple writing table with a bell button within reach of her hand. It is between 4 and 5 in the afternoon. The door is opened violently, and Higgins enters.
Henry, what are you doing here today? It is my at-home day. You promised not to come. Go home at once.
I know, Mother. I came on purpose.
But you mustn't, Henry. You offend all of my friends. They stop coming whenever they meet you.
Nonsense. I know I have no small talk, but people don't mind.
Oh, don't they? Small talk indeed. What about your large talk? Really, dear, you mustn't stay.
I must. I have a job for you, a phonetic job.
No use, dear. I'm sorry, but I can't get around your vowels.
Well, this isn't a phonetic job.
You just said it was.
Not your part of it. I've picked up a girl.
Does that mean that some girl has picked you up?
Not at all. I don't mean a love affair.
What a pity.
Oh, I can't be bothered with women. I shall never get into the way of seriously liking young women. Besides, they're all idiots.
Do you know what you would do if you really loved me, Henry?
Oh, bother. What? Marry, I suppose?
No, you would leave me alone at my at-home days. That's a good boy. Now, tell me about the girl.
She's coming to see you.
I don't remember asking her.
You didn't. I asked her. If you had known that she was coming, you wouldn't have asked her.
Indeed. Why?
Well, it's like this. She's a common flower girl. I picked her off the curbstone.
And invited her to my at-home?
Oh, that'll be all right. I've taught her to speak properly, and she has strict orders as to her behavior. She is to keep to two subjects, weather and everybody's health. Fine day and how do you do? Not to let herself go off about things in general. That way we'll be safe.
Safe? To talk about our health, about our insides, perhaps about our outsides. How could you be so silly, Henry?
Well, she must talk about something. Oh, she'll be all right, don't you fuss. Pickering is in it with me. We have sort of a bet going on. I'll pass her off as the duchess in 6 months. I've started on her some months ago, and she's getting on like a house on fire. I shall win my bet. She has a quick ear, and she has been easier to teach than my middle-class pupils because she's had to learn a completely new language. She talks English almost as you talk French.
That's satisfactory at all events.
Well, it is and it isn't.
What does that mean?
You see, I've got her pronunciation all right, but you have to consider not only what a girl pronounces, but what she pronounces. And that's where
They are interrupted by the parlor maid, announcing guests.
Mr. and Mrs. Eynsford Hill.
Oh, Lord!
Mrs. and Miss Eynsford Hill are the mother and daughter who sheltered from the rain in Covent Garden. The mother is well-bred, quiet, and has the habitual anxiety of straitened means. The daughter has acquired a gay air of being very much at home in society, the bravado of genteel poverty.
How do you do?
How do you do?
My son, Henry.
Ah, your celebrated son. I've so longed to meet you, Professor Higgins.
Sure, delighted.
How do you do?
It doesn't matter.
I'm sorry to say that my celebrated son has no manners. You mustn't mind him.
They are interrupted once more.
Colonel Pickering.
How do you do, Miss Higgins? Has Henry told you what we've come for?
We were interrupted. Damn it!
Oh, Henry. Henry, really?
Oh, are we in the way?
No.
No. You couldn't have come more fortunately. We want you to meet a friend of ours.
Yes, by George, we want 2 or 3 people. You'll do just about as well as anybody else.
The parlor maid returns, ushering Freddie.
Mr. Eynsford Hill.
God of heaven, another of them?
How do you do?
Very good of you to come. May I introduce you to Colonel Pickering?
How do you do?
I don't think you know my son, Professor Higgins.
How do you do?
Well, here we are. And now, what the devil are we going to talk about until Eliza comes?
My dear Henry, you're the life and the soul of this Royal Society soirees, but really you're rather trying on more commonplace occasions.
Am I? Very sorry. I suppose I am, you know.
I sympathise. I haven't any small talk. If people would only be frank and say what they really think.
Lord forbid. Do you suppose it would be really agreeable if I were to come out with what I really think?
Oh, why? Is it so very cynical?
Cynical? Who the dickens said it was cynical? I mean, it wouldn't be decent.
Oh, I'm sure you don't mean that, Mr. Higgins. Do tell.
You see, we're all savages, more or less. We're supposed to be civilized and cultured, to know about poetry and philosophy and art and science and so on, but how many of us even know the meanings of these names? What do you know of poetry? What do you know of science? What does he know of art or science or anything? What the devil do you imagine I know of philosophy?
Or of manners, Henry?
Enter the parlor maid.
Miss Doolittle?
Here she is, mother.
Eliza, who is exquisitely dressed, produces an impression of such remarkable distinction and beauty as she enters that they all rise, quite flustered.
How do you do, Mrs. Higgins? Mr. Higgins told me I might come.
Quite right. I'm very glad indeed to see you.
How do you do, Miss Doolittle?
Colonel Pickering, is it not? How do you do?
My daughter, Clara.
How do you do?
How do you do?
My son, Freddie.
A pleasure.
The pleasure's all mine, lady.
Will it rain, do you think?
The shadow depression in the west of these islands is likely to move slowly in the easterly direction. There are no indications of any great change in the barometrical situation.
Awfully funny.
What is wrong with that, young man? I bet I got it right.
Killing.
I hope it won't turn cold. There's so much influenza about. It runs right through our whole family regularly every spring.
My aunt died of influenza. So they said.
So they said.
It's my belief they done the old woman in.
Done her in?
Now, Henry.
Yes, Lord love you. Why did she die? Suffering through diphtheria right enough the year before. Saw her with her own eyes, fairly blue she was. They all thought she was dead. But my mother, she kept ladling gin down her throat till she came to so sudden that she bit the ball off the spoon.
Dear me!
Mother, what does doing her in mean?
Henry?
Oh, that's some new small talk. To do a person in means to kill them.
You surely don't believe that your aunt was killed.
Do I not?
But it can't have been right for your mother to have poured spirits down her throat like that. Why, it might have killed her.
Not her. Gin was mother's milk to her. Besides, she'd poured so much down her own throat that she knew the good of it.
Do you mean she drank?
Drank? Oh, my word, something chronic.
Chronic? Mother, does that mean plenty? Is she saying that he...
Oh, dreadful for you!
Not a bit. It never did her no harm, what I could see. Always more agreeable when she had a drop in. There's lots of folks who need to drink to make them fit to live with. Drop of booze just takes that edge off and makes them happy. Here, what are you sniggering at?
The new small talk. You do it so awfully well.
Well, if I was doing it proper, what was you laughing at? Have I said anything I oughtn't?
Not at all, Miss Doolittle.
Well, that's a mercy anyhow. What I always say is that...
Ahem!
Oh, well, I must go. So pleased to have met you all. Goodbye.
Freddie opens the door for her.
Are you going across the park, Miss Doolittle? If so, I'd be honoured to accompany you and...
If so, walk, not bloody likely. I'm going in a taxi. Ta-ta!
She exits, leaving those in the room with their jaws agape. Freddie goes out on the balcony to catch another final glimpse of Eliza.
Well, I really can't get used to the new ways.
Oh, it's all right, Mama, quite right. People would think you never go anywhere or see anybody if you're so old-fashioned.
I dare say I am very old-fashioned. But I do hope you won't begin using that expression, Clara. This last really is too much.
There's no right or wrong in it. Nobody means anything by it. And it's so quaint and gives such a smart emphasis to the things that are not in themselves very witty. I find the new small talk very delightful and quite innocent.
Well, after that, I think it's time for us to go.
Oh, yes, we had 3 at-homes to go to still. Goodbye, Mrs. Higgins. Goodbye, Colonel Pickering. Goodbye, Professor Higgins.
Oh, goodbye. Be sure to try on that new small talk at the 3 at-homes. And don't be nervous about it. Pitch it in strong.
I will. Such nonsense, all this early Victorian pewtery.
Such damned nonsense.
Such bloody nonsense.
Mrs. Hill nearly drags her daughter out of the room.
Well then, goodbye.
Goodbye. Would you like to meet Miss Doolittle again?
Yes, I should, most awfully.
Well, you know where to find me.
Yes. Thanks awfully. Goodbye.
Goodbye, dear.
Freddie follows his mother and sister out of the room. Higgins turns to his mother with a sigh.
Well, is Eliza presentable?
You silly boy. Of course she's not presentable. She's a triumph of your art and of your dressmaker, sure. But if you suppose for a moment that she doesn't give herself away in every sentence she utters, you must be perfectly cracked.
Don't you think something might be done? I mean something to eliminate the sanguinary element from her conversation.
Not as long as she's in Henry's hands.
Do you mean that my language is improper?
No, dearest. It would be quite proper, say, on a garbage barge, but it would not be proper for her at a garden party.
Well, I must say...
Higgins, you must learn to know yourself.
Oh, well, if you say so, I suppose. I suppose I don't always talk like a bishop.
Colonel Pickering, will you tell me what the exact state of things in Wimpole Street are?
Well, I have come there to live there with Henry. We work together at my Indian dialects.
Quite so, I know all about that. It's an excellent arrangement, but where does this girl live?
With us, of course. Where would she live? I've had to work at the girl every day for months to get her to her present pitch. Besides, she's useful. She knows where my things are and remembers my appointments and so forth.
How does your housekeeper get on with her?
Miss Pierce? Oh, she's jolly glad to get so much taken off her hands. Before Eliza came, she had to find all the things and remember my appointments. But she's got some silly bee in her bonnet about Eliza. She keeps saying, "You don't think, sir." The truth is, I'm worn out thinking about her, watching her lips and her teeth and her tongue.
You certainly are a pretty pair of babies playing with your live doll.
Playing? The hardest job I've ever tackled, Mother. Make no mistake about that, Mother.
I assure you, Mrs. Higgins, we take Eliza very seriously. Every week, every day almost, there is some new change.
Yes, by George, she is the most absorbing experiment I've ever tackled. She regularly fills up our lives, doesn't she, Pick?
We're always talking Eliza.
Teaching Eliza.
Dressing Eliza.
What?
Inventing new Elizas. You know, she has the most extraordinary quickness of ear.
Shush, shush!
I beg your pardon.
Sorry. When Pickering starts shouting, nobody can get a word in edgewise.
Oh, be quiet, Henry. Colonel Pickering, don't you realize that when Eliza walked into Wimpole Street, something walked in with her?
Her mother did, but Henry soon got rid of her.
No, a problem.
Oh, I see. The problem of how to pass her off as a lady.
I'll solve that problem. I've half solved it already.
No, you two infinitely stupid male creatures. The problem of what's to be done with her afterwards.
I don't see anything in that. She can go on her way with all the advantages I have given her.
The advantages of that poor woman who was here just now. The manners and habits that disqualify a fine lady from earning her a living without giving her a fine lady's income. Is that what you mean?
We'll find her some light employment.
She's happy enough. Don't you worry about her. Goodbye.
Anyhow, there's no use bothering now. The thing's done. Goodbye, Mother.
There are plenty of openings. We'll do what's right. Goodbye.
Men, men, men!
This concludes Act 3. The Wimpole Street Laboratory. Midnight. Nobody in the room. The clock on the mantelpiece strikes 12. The fire is not alight. It is a summer night. Higgins and Pickering are heard coming up the stairs.
I say, Pick, lock up, will you? I shan't be going out again.
Right. Can Mrs. Pierce go to bed? We don't want anything more, do we?
Lord, no.
Eliza opens the door and is seen in a brilliant evening dress and diamonds, with fan, flowers, and all accessories. She is tired, and her expression is almost tragic. She takes off her cloak, puts her fan and flowers on the piano, and sits down, brooding and silent. Higgins, in evening dress, with overcoat and hat, comes in and tosses his coat carelessly on the newspaper stand before throwing himself wearily into the easy chair. Pickering, similarly attired, also takes off his hat and overcoat.
Have you checked the mail? Are there any letters?
Didn't look. I wonder where the devil my slippers are.
Eliza looks at him darkly, then leaves the room. Pickering returns with the contents of the letterbox in his hand.
Only circulars and this tornade billet doux for you.
Linda.
Eliza returns with a pair of large down-at-heel slippers. She places them on the carpet before Higgins and sits as before without a word.
Oh, Lord. What an evening. What a crew. What a silly tomfoolery. Oh, there they are they?
Well, I feel a bit tired. It's been a long day. The garden party, a dinner party, and the opera. Rather too much of a good thing. But you've won your bet, Higgins. Eliza did the trick and something to spare, eh?
Thank God it's over.
Eliza flinches violently, but they take no notice of her. She recovers herself and sits stonily as before.
Were you nervous at the garden party? I was. Eliza didn't seem a bit nervous.
Oh, she wasn't nervous. I knew she'd be all right. No, it's the strain of putting the job through all these months. It was interesting enough at first, when we were at the phonetics, but after that I got deadly sick of it. If I hadn't backed myself to do it, I should have chucked the whole thing up 2 months ago. It was a silly notion. The whole thing has been a bore.
Oh, come. The garden party was frightfully exciting. My heart began beating like anything.
Yes, for the first 3 minutes. But when I saw we were going to win hands down, I felt like a bear in a cage, hanging about, doing nothing. The dinner was worse, sitting there gorging for over an hour without anybody but a damnable fool of a fashionable woman to talk to. I tell you, Pickering, never again for me. No more artificial duchesses. The whole thing has been simple purgatory.
Anyhow, it was a great success, an immense success. I was quite frightened once or twice because Eliza was doing it so well. You see, lots of the real people can't do it at all. They're such fools that they think style comes by nature to people in their position, and so they never learn. There's always something so professional about doing a thing superlatively well.
Yes, it's over and done with, and now I can go to bed at last without dreading tomorrow.
Eliza's beauty becomes murderous.
I think I shall turn in too. Still, a great occasion, a triumph for you. Good night.
Pickering retires.
Same for me. Good night. Oh, put out the lights, Eliza, and tell Miss Pierce not to make me coffee in the morning. I'll take tea.
Silent, Eliza tries to control herself and feel indifferent as she rises to switch off the lights. By the time she gets there, she is on the point of screaming. She sits down in Higgins's chair and holds on hard to the arms. Finally, she gives way and flings herself furiously on the floor, raging.
What the devil have I done with my slippers?
He reappears at the door only to have his slippers hurled at his face.
There are your slippers, and there, take your slippers, and may you never have a day's luck with them.
What on earth? What's the matter? Get up. Anything wrong?
Nothing wrong with you. I've won your bet for you, haven't I? That's enough for you. I don't matter, I suppose.
You won my bet. You presumptuous insect. I won it. Why did you throw those at me?
Because I wanted to smash your face. I'd like to kill you, you selfish brute. Why didn't you leave me where you picked me out of, in the gutter? You thank God it's all over and that you can see back in there again, do you? What's to become of me? What's to become of me?
How the devil do I know what's to become of you? What does it matter what becomes of you?
Oh, You don't care. You don't care. I know you don't. You wouldn't care if I was dead. I'm nothing to you, not so much as them slippers.
Those slippers.
Those slippers. I didn't think it made any difference now.
Why have you been going on like this? May I ask whether you complain of your treatment here?
No.
Perhaps you're tired after the strain of the day?
No.
This has been coming on you for some days. I suppose it was natural for you to be anxious about the garden party, but that's all over now. You can go to bed like a good girl and sleep it off. Have a little cry and say your prayers. That will make you comfortable.
Heard your prayers. Thank God it's all over.
Well, don't you thank God it's all over? Now you are free and can do whatever you like.
What am I fit for? What have you left me fit for? Where am I to go? What am I to do? What is to become of me?
Oh, lots of things. What about your old idea of a florist shop? Pickering could set you up in one. He's lots of money. Why, 6 months ago, you would have thought the millennium to have a florist shop. Come, you'll be all right. I must clear off to bed. I'm devilishly sleepy. By the way, I came down for something. I forgot what it was.
Your slippers.
Oh, yes, of course. You sheathed them at me.
Before you go, sir, I'm only a common, ignorant girl, and in my station I must be careful. Do my clothes belong to me or to Colonel Pickering? He paid for this whole... Please, just will you tell me, do my clothes belong to me or to someone else?
You may take the whole damned houseful if you like. Except the jewels. They're hired. Will that satisfy you?
She takes off her jewels.
Will you take these to your room and keep them safe? I don't want to run the risk of their being missing.
Hand them over. If these belong to me, instead of to the jeweler, I'd ram them down your ungrateful throat.
Ah, this ring isn't the jeweler's. It's the one you bought me in Brighton. I don't want it now.
Higgins dashes the ring violently into the fireplace and turns on her so threateningly that she crouches over the piano with her hands over her face.
Don't you hit me!
Hit you? You infamous creature, how dare you accuse me of such a thing? It is you who have hit me. You have wounded me to the heart.
Well, I'm glad. I've got a little bit of my own back anyhow.
I'd prefer to say nothing more tonight. I'm going to bed.
You'd better leave a note for Mrs. Pierce about the coffee, for she won't be told by me.
He goes out with impressive decorum and spoils it by slamming the door savagely. Eliza smiles for the first time and finally goes down on her knees on the hearthrug to look for the ring. This concludes Act 4. Mrs. Higgins's drawing room. She is at her writing table as before. The parlor maid comes in.
Mr. Henry, ma'am, is downstairs with Colonel Pickering.
Well, show them up.
They're using the telephone, ma'am. Telephoning to the police, I think.
What?
Mr. Henry's in a state, ma'am. I thought I'd better tell you.
If you had told me that Mr. Henry was not in a state, I would have been more surprising. Well, tell them to come up when they finish with the police. I suppose he's lost something.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, and please go upstairs and tell Miss Doolittle that Mr. Henry and the Colonel are here. Ask her not to come down until I send for her.
Yes, ma'am.
Higgins bursts in. He is, as the parlor maid has said, in a state.
Look here, Mother. Here's a confounded thing.
Yes, dear. Good morning. What is it?
Eliza's bolted.
You must have frightened her.
Frightened her? Nonsense! She was left last night as usual to turn out all the lights and all that, and instead of going to bed, she changed her clothes and went right off. Her bed wasn't slept in. That fool Miss Pierce let her leave without telling me a word about it. What am I to do?
Do without, I'm afraid, Henry. The girl has a perfect right to leave if she chooses.
Pickering enters.
Good morning, Mrs. Higgins. Has Henry told you?
What has that ass of an inspector had to say? Have you offered a reward?
You don't mean to say you've set the police after Eliza?
Of course. What are the police for? What else could we do?
The inspector made a lot of difficulties. I really think he suspected us of some improper purpose.
Well, of course he did. What right have you go to the police and give the girl's name as if she were a thief or a lost umbrella or something? Really?
But we want to find her.
We can't let her go like this, you know, Mrs. Higgins. What were we to do?
You have no sense, more sense either of you than two children. Why?
Mr. Henry, a lady wants to see you, very particular. She's been sent on from Wimpole Street. She's wearing a wedding dress, sir.
Christ, I can't see anyone right now. Who is it?
Miss Doolittle, sir.
Doolittle.
Send her up quick.
Yes, sir. Miss Doolittle.
Doolittle enters as the parlour-maid exits. She is brilliantly dressed in a new fashionable fur coat with a long white dress underneath that she has hiked up nearly past her ankles. She also dons a sheer white veil clipped into her clean hair. She walks straight to Higgins and accosts him.
See here! Do you see this? You done this!
Done what?
Looking quite, clean, Miss Doolittle.
This, I tell you! Look at it! Look at this dress! Look at this coat!
But what has my son done to you, Miss Doolittle?
Done to me, ruined me, destroyed my happiness, tied me up and delivered me into the hands of middle-class morality.
You're raving. You're drunk. You're mad. I gave you £5. I've never seen you since.
Oh, drunk am I? Mad am I? Tell me this. Did you or did you not write a letter to a man in America that was giving $5 million to fund moral reform societies all over the world?
What? Uzadi Wanafella?
Yes, he's dead now.
Oh my.
Now, did you or did you not write a letter to him and say that the most original moralist and philosopher was one Anita Doolittle, a common businesswoman?
I believe I used the words brothel maid.
Brothel manager, thank you.
After your last visit, yes, I remember making some silly joke of the kind.
Ah, well, you may call it a silly joke. You gave him the chance he wanted to show him that Americans is not like us, that they recognize and respect merit in every class of life, however humble. Them words is in his bloomin' will, thanks to your silly joking. That man dies, and he leaves me a share in his trust worth $3,000 a year on the condition that I lecture for his moral reform word league 6 times a year.
The devil he does. Whew, what a lark.
Safe thing for you, Doolittle. You need to take it. They won't ask you twice.
Oh, I'll lecture them blue in the face, I will, and not turn a hair. It's making a proper woman of me that I object to. I was happy. I was free. Now I'm wealthy, tied neck and heels, and everybody touches me for money. A year ago, I hadn't a relative in the world except 2 or 3 that wouldn't speak to me. Now I've 50 and not a decent week's wages amongst the lot of them. I have to live for others and not for myself. That's middle-class morality. You talk of losing Eliza. Pfft, don't be anxious. I bet she's on my doorstep by this evening.
But, my dear Miss Doolittle, you need not suffer. No one can force you to accept this bequest. You can't turn it down.
That's the tragedy of it, ma'am. It's easy to say, chuck it, but I haven't the nerve. Which one of us has? We're all intimidated. Intimidated. That's what we are, ma'am. That's what your son has brought me to.
Well, I'm very glad you're not going to do anything foolish, Miss Doolittle, for this solves the problem of Eliza's future. You can provide for her now.
No, I paid £5 for the girl and she has no right to take her back. She is mine, and she could be dead by now for all we know.
Henry, don't be absurd. If you really want to know where Eliza is, she's upstairs.
Upstairs? Then I shall jolly soon fetch her downstairs.
Be quiet, Henry. Sit down.
I think you might have told me this a half hour ago.
Eliza came to me this morning. She passed through the night walking about in a rage. She told me of the brutal way you two treated her.
What?
We hardly said a word to her, and we parted last evening on particularly good terms. Higgins, did you bully her after I went to bed?
Just the other way around. She threw my slippers in my face. She behaved in the most outrageous way. I never gave her the slightest provocation. The slippers came bang into my face the moment I entered the room, before I had uttered a word.
I think I know pretty well what you did. She had become attached to you both. She worked very hard for you, Henry. It seems that when the great day of trial came and she did this wonderful thing for you without making a single mistake, you two sat there and never said a word to her, but talked together how glad you were it was all over, and how you had been bored with the whole thing. And then you were surprised she threw her slippers at you. I should have thrown the fire irons at you. You didn't thank her, or pet her, or admire her, or tell her how splendid she'd been.
But she knew all about that. We didn't make speeches to her, if that's what you mean.
Well, I'm afraid she won't go back to Wimpole Street, especially now that Miss Doolittle is able to keep the position you have thrust upon her. But she says she is quite willing to meet you on friendly terms and to let bygones be bygones. If you promise to behave yourself, Henry, I'll ask her to come down. If not, go home. You've taken up quite enough of my time.
Oh, all right. Very well. Pick, behave yourself. Let us put on our Sunday best manners for this creature that we picked out of the mud.
Remember your promise, Henry. Miss Doolittle, will you be so good as to step out on the balcony for a moment? I don't want Eliza to have the shock of your news until she is made up with these two gentlemen. Would you mind?
As you wish, lady. Anything to help Henry keep her off my hands.
Miss Doolittle disappears to the balcony. The parlour maid enters.
Ask Miss Doolittle to come down, please.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Now, Henry, be good.
I am behaving myself perfectly.
He is doing his best, Mrs. Higgins.
Eliza enters, sunny, self-possessed, and giving a staggeringly convincing exhibition of ease of manner. She is very much at home.
How do you do, Professor Higgins? Are you quite well?
Am I?
But of course you are. You are never ill. So glad to see you again, Colonel Pickering. Quite chilly this morning, isn't it?
Don't you dare try this game on me. I taught it to you and it doesn't take me in. Get up and come home and don't be a fool.
Very nicely put indeed, Henry. No woman could resist such an invitation.
Will you drop me altogether now that the experiment is over, Colonel Pickering?
Oh, don't. You mustn't think of it as an experiment. It shocks me somehow.
No, I'm only a squashed cabbage leaf.
No.
But I owe you so much that I should be very happy if you forgot me.
It's very kind of you to say so, Miss Doolittle.
It's not because you paid for my dresses. I know you are generous to everybody with money. But it was that I learnt really nice manners. And that is what makes it a lady, isn't it? I should never have known how ladies and gentlemen behave if you hadn't been there.
No doubt. Still, Henry has taught you to speak, and I couldn't have done that, you know.
Of course, that is his profession.
Damnation!
You know what began my real education?
What?
You're calling me Miss Doolittle that day when I first came to Wimpole Street. That was the beginning of self-respect for me. And there were 100 little things you never noticed because they came naturally to you. Things about standing up and taking off your hat and opening doors.
That was nothing.
Yes, these things that showed you thought and felt about me as if I was something better than a scullery maid. Though, of course, I know you would have been just the same to a scullery maid if she had been let in the drawing room. You see, really and truly, the difference between a lady and a flower girl is not how she behaves, but how she's treated. I shall always be a flower girl to Professor Higgins because he always treats me as a flower girl and always will. But I know I can be a lady to you because you always treat me as lady and always will.
Well, this is really very nice of you, Miss Doolittle.
I should like you to call me Eliza now, if you would.
Thank you. Eliza, of course.
And I should like Professor Higgins to call me Miss Doolittle.
I'll see you damned first.
Henry!
Eliza, my dear, why don't you slang back at him? Don't stand it. It would do him a lot of good.
I can't. I could have done it once, but now I can't go back to it. You told me, you know, when a child is brought to a foreign country, it picks up the language in a few weeks and forgets its own. Well, I'm a child in your country. I've forgotten my own language and can speak nothing but yours.
Oh, but you're coming back to Wimpole Street, aren't you? You'll forgive Higgins?
Will she, by George? Let her go. Let her find out how she can go on without us. She will relapse into the gutter within 3 weeks without me at her elbow.
Doolittle appears at the center window. She comes slowly and silently to her daughter, who is unconscious of her approach.
Your mother is here, Eliza.
She is?
Seeing her, you won't relapse, will you?
No, not now, never again. I've learnt my lesson. I don't believe I could utter one of those old sounds if I tried.
I'm glad to hear it, Liza.
Ow!
Just so! Ow, 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 ow! Victory! Victory!
Oh, can you blame the girl? Don't look at me like that, Liza. It ain't my fault. I've come into money.
You must have bet a millionaire this time, Mum.
I have. Well, not exactly, but I'm dressed something special today. I'm going to St. George's, Hanover Square. Your stepfather's going to marry me.
You're going to let yourself down to actually marry that low common man?
She has to, Eliza.
He was also intimidated. Middle-class morality claims another victim. Oh, won't you put your hat on, Liza, and come and see me turned off?
Be kind to them, Eliza. Make the best of it.
Oh, well, just to show there's no ill feeling, I'll be back in a moment.
She exits.
I feel uncommon nerves about the ceremony, Colonel. I wish you'd come and see me through it. Perhaps walk me down the aisle.
But you've been through it before. You were married to Eliza's father.
Oh, who told you that, Colonel?
Well, nobody told me, but I concluded naturally.
No, that ain't the natural way, Colonel. It's only the middle-class way. My way was always the undeserving way. But don't say nothing to Eliza. She don't know. I always had a delicacy about telling her.
Quite right. We'll leave it so, if you don't mind.
And you'll come to the church, Colonel, and you'll put me through straight.
With pleasure.
May I come, Miss Doolittle? I should be very sorry to miss your wedding.
I should indeed be honoured by your presence.
I'll order the carriage and get ready. I shan't be more than 15 minutes.
Liza re-enters wearing her favorite hat.
I'm going to the church to see your parents married, Eliza. You'd better come in the carriage with me. Colonel Pickering can go on with the bride.
Bride, Christ, what a word.
Before I go, Eliza, do you forgive Henry and come back to us?
I don't think Mum would allow me, would you, Mum?
They played you off very cunning, Liza. Them's two sportsmen. If it'd been one of them, you might have nailed him. But you see, there was two. I shan't interfere. You're a big girl.
Do you stay with us, Eliza?
Mrs. Higgins, Mr. Doolittle, and Pickering exit, leaving Higgins alone with Liza.
Well, you've had Eliza, you've had a bit of your own back, as you call it. Have you had enough? And are you going to be reasonable?
You want me back only to pick up your slippers and to put up with your tempers and fetch and carry for you.
I haven't said I wanted you back at all.
Oh, indeed. Then what are we talking about?
About you, not about me. If you come back, I shall treat you just as I always have treated you. I can't change my nature, and I don't intend to change my manners. My manners are exactly the same as Colonel Pickering's.
That's not true. He treats a flower girl as if she was a duchess.
And I treat a duchess as if she was a flower girl.
I see. The same to everybody.
The great secret, Eliza, is not having bad manners or good manners or any particular sort of manners, but having the same manners for all human souls. In short, behaving as if you were in heaven, where there are no third-class carriages, and one soul is as good as another.
No, amen. You are a born preacher.
The question is not whether I treat you rudely, but whether you have ever heard me treat anyone else better.
I can do without you. Don't think I can't.
I know you can. I told you you could.
I know you did, you brute. You wanted to get rid of me.
You never asked yourself, I suppose, whether I could do without you.
You'll have to do without me.
I can do without anybody. I have my own soul, my own spark of divine fire. But I shall miss you, Eliza. I have learned something from your idiotic notions. I confess that humbly and gratefully. And I have grown accustomed to your voice and appearance. I like them, rather.
Well, both of them on your gramophone and in your book of photographs. When you feel lonely without me, you can turn the machine on. It's got no feelings to hurt.
I can't turn your soul on. Leave me those feelings. You can take away the voice and the face. They are not you.
Oh, you are a devil. You can twist the heart in a girl as easy as some could twist her arms to hurt her. What am I to come back for?
For the fun of it. That's why I took you on.
And so you may throw me out tomorrow if I don't do everything you want me to?
Yes, and you may walk out tomorrow if I don't do everything you want me to do.
And live with my mother?
Or yes, or sell flowers.
Oh, if I could go back to my flower basket, I should be independent of all the world. Why did you take my independence from me? Oh, why did I give it up? I'm a slave now for all these fine clothes.
Not a bit. I'll adopt you as my daughter and settle money on you if you like. Or would you rather marry Colonel Pickering?
I wouldn't marry you if you asked me, and you're nearer my age than he is. I've always had enough chaps wanting me that way. Freddie Hill writes to me twice a day, and 3 times, sheets and sheets, and he does love me.
You have no right to encourage him.
He has a right to be loved.
What? By fools like that?
Freddie's not a fool, and he's weak and poor and wants me. Well, maybe he'd make me happier than my betters that bully me and don't want me.
Can he make anything of you? That's the point.
Perhaps I could make something of him, but I never thought of us making anything of one another. And you never think of anything else. I only want to be natural. I want a little kindness. I know I'm only a common ignorant girl and you a book-learned gentleman, but I'm not dirt under your feet. What I did was not for the dresses and the taxis. I did it because we were pleasant together. And I came to care for you, not to want you to make love to me, and not forgetting the difference between us, but more friendly and like.
Well, of course. That's just how I feel. And how Pickering feels. Eliza, you're a fool.
That's not a proper answer to give me.
If you can't appreciate what you've got, you'd better get what you can appreciate.
I can't have kindness, I'll have independence. If you can preach, I can teach. I'll go and be a teacher.
What will you teach in heaven's name?
What you taught me. I'll teach phonetics.
Teach my methods, my discoveries. You take one step in that direction and I'll wring your neck. Do you hear?
Ring away, what do I care? I knew you'd strike me someday. Aha, now I know how to deal with you. What a fool I was not to think of it before. You can't take away the knowledge you gave me. You said I had a finer ear than you, and I could be civil and kind to people, which is more than you can. I'll advertise it in the papers that your duchess is only a flower girl that you taught, and that she'll teach anybody to be a duchess just the same in 6 months. All the time I had to only lift up my finger to be as good as you, quite possibly better.
You damned impudent slut, you! But it's better than sniveling. Better than fetching slippers and finding spectacles, isn't it? By George, Eliza, I said I'd make a woman out of you, and I have. I like you like this.
Yes, you turn around and make up to me now that I'm not afraid of you and can do without you.
Of course I do, you little fool. 5 minutes ago, you were like a millstone around my neck. Now you're a tower of strength, a consort battleship. You and I and Pickering will be 3 old bachelors together instead of 2 men and a silly girl.
Whatever do you mean?
You say you want out, but trust me. 3 days' time, you'll be knocking on our door. You'll miss the camaraderie. You'll miss old Pick and I know you'll miss Miss Pierce too. You can act as tough as you like, but I know there's a soft spot there. And just for you, I'll pretend this never happened.
Mrs. Higgins returns, dressed for the wedding. Eliza instantly becomes cool and elegant.
The carriage is waiting, Eliza. Are you ready?
Quiet. Is the professor coming?
Certainly not. He can't behave himself in church. He makes remarks out loud all the time on the clergyman's pronunciation.
Then I shall not see you again, Professor. Goodbye.
Goodbye, Mother. Oh, goodbye, Mother. By the way, Eliza, order a ham and an old cheese, will you? And buy me a pair of reindeer gloves, number 8s, and a tie to match that new suit of mine. You can choose the color.
You don't own me, Henry. Buy them yourself.
Liza exits.
Afraid you've spoiled that girl, Henry. But never mind, dear. I'll buy you the tie and gloves.
Oh, don't bother. She'll buy them all right. Goodbye.
Goodbyes have been said, and Mrs. Higgins runs out. Higgins is left alone. This concludes Act 5.